how do we describe PREMA's? Yeah, they're the team's champions. That's good. Out of Leclerc, Jak Crawford, second-year drivers, outshone, or at least outpositioned, but I would also say outshone by Ollie Bearman, who came in with such a reputation because of his achievements last year. And had he won the title this year, which he was a whisker away from doing, the amount of expectation you'd have for next year, because he'd be following pretty closely in footsteps of a certain Aussie who's getting a drive in Formula One next year. I'm still massively impressed by Bearman. And yeah, PREMA, you expect them to be taking the top slots, and they did. So, Josh, your thoughts on PREMA's 2022?
I guess start off with Jak Crawford. Jak Crawford. Jesus. Jack, same thing. I'll just call him Jak Crawford. No, he was like, Jak showed some good stuff this year, but his problem was that on one hand, he had a namesake driver who everyone was having high expectations for. And on the other hand, you had a guy who was coming in with the sort of legend of John Henry's hammer on his side. Like, it's hard really to keep up with that, even if you're a Red Bull driver. But even in the Red Bull spectrum, Crawford is low in terms of hype. You know, like, if you think of all the Red Bull juniors that there are right now, where does Crawford sit in that spectrum? And this year hasn't helped. He hasn't been slow. He's been there with his teammates. He just hasn't been really quite as much in contention as the Bear was, which kind of sucks for him. But we do have to ask, what's Crawford going to do next year? Because is Marco going to keep him on? I don't know. I know if Crawford's going to remain with Red Bull next year. Is there any reason to keep him on next year, if we're being brutally honest?
I think his age. I think a lot of people really overlook how young he was. He barely got into the championship before the last year.
Yeah.
He's a really young driver still, and I do agree though. What do you do next year?
But the thing is he doesn't come across as a driver Marco would necessarily back. Like Marco's a dude who will go for not loose cannons, but he sort of goes for the exciting drivers, you know, the ones that will sort of take a car to the ragged edge. And, you know, you see that, you know, you see him go for the drivers that will just sort of go for the gap. Crawford doesn't come across as a driver who's like that. It's like it's a bit of a weird driver for Marco to like. He's not really someone Marco typically backs. So I don't know how long he's going to remain there, irrespective of his age. But
just devil's advocate here, we saw Jack Doohan go Red Bull to Alpine. Is that a possible thing?
Alpine seem to have a lot of, you know, juniors really that we sort of want seats, but you know, at the same time, Alpine have this really unhealthy obsession lately of sort of saying, "Oh well, we'll trade you to Williams for a couple of years," and it's what landed them in hot water in the first place. And now they want to do the same thing with Jak Doohan. It's like, do you not learn? Yeah. Overall, Crawford, I think it's fair to say it was a good season. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a great one, though. The Bear, love the dude. Like, it was a shaky start to the season. You know, I think really it probably was what killed his campaign was like some early mistakes, which, you know, you would expect, you know, like, especially at that level of competition. But once he harnessed that, you know, there were some really damn good performances, and the dude has got absolutely no friggin' chill sometimes. Like Zandvoort was complete anarchy. Like, it's just I was watching that feature race at Zandvoort. It's like, okay, you look nothing like Denny Holm, who is named the Bear, but the way you drive certainly makes up for that. Like, that was absolutely uncompromising. Like,
You can't pass at Zandvoort though, Josh, of course.
no, you can't. And Zandvoort is a rancid track for Formula One. And was it Jan Lammers who's sort of spearheading the Dutch Grand Prix campaign? If you are listening, you're a bloody idiot for hosting the damn Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. Did you really?
Bearman
did you really
proves
think
you
this was a
can
good idea?
pass. That's what we're going to focus on.
You can pass after damaging your steering rack to a point where it has more angle on it than NASCAR, but still, that was the most ragged, sort of complete anarchistic friggin' race I've ever seen from someone. But at the same time, it's like, I like seeing someone go for the gaps like that, even if you have to make the gap. But I think more Monza, that sprint race was just beautiful and almost taking that at the Parabolica. I love seeing drivers go for it, And granted, Zandvoort was probably erring more on the reckless side, but, Monza, you got the sense of like, I'm going to bloody well go for it right to the death. And I love seeing that from drivers, Overall, the Bear probably could have had a better year, but that's how it is. It's a learning experience for him. I'm sure he's probably going to go to F2 next year because what does he stand to gain by staying in Formula 3 for another year? Very similar to Zane Maloney, actually. Like, very damn good rookie campaign. Probably could have been better. It would have helped to getting them the championship, but still, with how they performed, they've earned the progression up to Formula 2. And I'd be very keen to see how he goes. Even if opportunities may be few and far between to get into Formula 1 eventually, especially when you consider that, the third wheel in this PREMA outfit probably has a bit more pull into getting to Formula 1 based on name. But I will say this, Arthur Leclerc is not his brother. And that is the kindest thing I could say about him. He has sprinklings of pace, and I know I love drivers that will go for the gap. Arthur goes for gaps that don't exist. And the dude has worse spatial awareness than Lance Stroll. And he's really brassed me off this year with some of the stuff that he's been pulling. Not wishing to be purposely mean to the dudes, but you would have expected a lot more from him, for sure. Especially with how much time he's spending in Formula 3 machinery, especially the name he's got. You got to think that he's going to not necessarily have everything go his way, but at least he will have the advantage of like that advice, someone being up there that can help him, and he's really let himself down. His racecraft is terrible, So, I've waxed lyrical about the Bear. I thought, Crawford had a pretty good season. Leclerc though, I'm pretty negative about the dude. I'm probably being too harsh, but I absolutely have not much good to say about him at the end of the day, simply because you would expect more of him. And instead, the only person he's got to blame for him missing out on the championship is himself, and himself wholeheartedly. So, yeah, he's almost certainly going to go up to Formula 2 next year. I don't want to see him there.